Jameson is going to tell us a love story. It's from the Competent Communication Manual number 3, Get to the Point. Timer note, it's 5 to 7 minutes. So tell us a love story, PJ.
This love story begins at a bus stop in Irvine, California, in the middle of my 7th grade year. I was a new kid at the school, and I was at the bus stop, all 5 foot, 75 pounds of straggly blonde hair, clutching my books in front of me, looking at the ground, and very shy. If you've ever changed schools in the middle of a school year, you know how I felt. But it was my lucky day because a blonde girl with round glasses, kind of like John Lennon's, approached me and said, "Are you new?" Of course I nodded yes. And she said, "Why don't you sit next to me at the bus, on the bus?" Well, middle school girls aren't known for being sweet, but Susie, who I came to know very well, was one of the sweetest. We became what is known in middle school language as best friends, middle school girlfriends. We spent so much time together. It's amazing how quickly we grew close. We soon began spending afternoons together, and I realized that if I was going to be Susie's friend, then I needed to up my game. I was not a good student, and she was a straight A student. We soon fell into a rhythm of going to each other's homes after school and studying. I don't really remember what we studied. I know she helped me with my math because I was very bad in math. But I do remember our snacks. Every day we would toast English muffins, slather them with butter, and drink chocolate milk. I remember taking that Nestle's powdered chocolate milk and just spooning tons of it into my glass, pouring the cold milk on top and not stirring it. We would take our spoons and just kind of grab the powdery milk and slurp it into our mouths. It's a lovely memory of a strange friendship thing that we used to do. We were what we call late bloomers, and boys were not part of our middle school world. But that February, during 8th grade, things were going well. I had a best friend, I got my braces off, and I was getting good grades for the first time. In February of 8th grade year, the student body, ASB, had a fundraiser where you could buy a carnation for your secret Valentine. You could do it anonymously. Well, the week leading up to that Friday delivery of Valentine's flowers, I went to the student store, and not having a boyfriend, but having this wonderful girlfriend, I bought her a flower and signed it, "Your Valentine." I hoped that she had done the same for me, but of course I didn't know. It was all anonymous. That Friday afternoon on Valentine's Day during 8th period, I waited for the door to open. And sure enough, it did. And there were ASB students, their hands full of flowers, each flower with a little card on it. And they passed the flowers out to the kids in class. We all looked to see who was getting flowers. Well, I thought it was a great thing, and I was smiling as everyone walked by getting their flowers, and then they were gone. And I hadn't received a flower from anyone. Well, I was naturally disappointed, and I didn't want anyone to know. So I got back to my work, and I was planning my strategy of how am I going to avoid Susie after school? How am I going to get home without anyone seeing me cry? Because I was so disappointed. And as I was doing that, the door opened again, and this one ASB student had two huge bunches of carnations in her hands, a dozen carnations in each hand. And she walked in and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry. We have one more delivery. We couldn't carry them all before. Is Paula Jameson here?" Well, everyone looked at me because, by the way, I was a zero, a social zero. No one knew who I was really. And all of a sudden, there were 24 flowers for me. I couldn't believe it. I feebly raised my hand, and I couldn't believe, as the girl walked over and handed me the flowers, I just kind of filled my nose with the fragrance of all those carnations and thought, it must be from Susie. Who else would do this? Who else would give me 24 carnations? The kids looked at me, and I even remember hearing someone say, "Who gave her all those flowers?" As we met up after school, I walked across the quad to where I normally would meet with Susie. And I looked at her, and she had the flower that I had gotten her, plus a couple others that some other friends of hers had gotten for her. And she looked at me just stunned. And she looked and said, "Where'd you get all those flowers?" And I said, "Well, I thought they were from you. Aren't they from you?" And she said, "I got you two flowers." We looked at the card and we verified that it was her handwriting. And we laughed because apparently the ASB kids weren't good at math either. And somehow the two flowers had turned into 24. We giggled all the way home. And it was such a special moment for us. It was really lovely for me because now I had some street cred. Plus, my best friend did send me flowers. In fact, she sent me two. As we grew older, our friendship love story of middle school, of course, faded away with college and careers. And we no longer are in touch with each other the way we were. But every Valentine's Day, I love to go back in my mind to my lovely friendship with Susie and the day that I got my first bouquet of Valentine's flowers. And I think she thinks of it too.